Jay Heath was on Packer and Durham this week, and he said, we knew it was going to be a good day when Sam Holtz knocked down that 3 out of the gates.
Well, one of the problems for Scott Spinelli and his Eagles tonight is the fact that these graduate student walk-ons, 4 of them who are starting the game, they know what Boston College is trying to do as well as Boston College does, because they're the scout team as well.
It also means that our tremendous statistician, John Madry, has to be ready to tabulate bench points for Florida State today. How about that block right out of the gates? That is Harrison Prieto, 5th-year senior walk-on. They call him the weatherman. He's your meteorology ace.
Well, I don't know how many weathermen block shots, but certainly.
You know, there was a tornado down here in the Tallahassee area. Yeah, there was a tornado down here a little over a month ago. He hopped in his car and went tornado chasing. That's the future for Harrison. Makai Ashton Langford spinning and scoring, and BC has the first points. We showed you the starters for Florida State. They are wearing the turquoise alternate uniforms. RaiQuan Evans got his own miss, and he counters with the first 2 for the Noles.
Turquoise, that's a fancy way for saying blue, isn't it?
I think so. I think we're going to hear from the peanut gallery tonight saying it's more like a light blue there on the scoreboard. Starters for BC of note, no Steph Mitchell. He is out with a hamstring injury. The senior forward for BC. Fred Scott does get a start, and CJ Felder is available coming off the bench for his first game in 2.5 weeks. Shot clock's winding down, and BC then get it off.
Well, they didn't get it off in time, but Makai Ashton Langford, that ball actually went in the basket. He made 4 of those against Notre Dame, and coming into that game in ACC play, he was 2 for 17. So you want to know why he was open so much against Notre Dame? Well, he was 2 for 17. They looked at the scouting report. And one of the things that they're allowed to do this year, which is new in any portion of the game, they're allowed to go and look to see whether or not he got that off. And A.J. Desai and Lee Cassell decide that he did not. So we have a shot clock violation, turnover by Boston College. But even with the walk-ons in the game to start the game, Boston College shot clock violation because they couldn't penetrate that defense. It's bad enough that for opponents that the Seminoles have 9 guys who play 15 minutes a game. When the guys who don't play that much can still guard you, that creates a real problem.
Yeah, a whole new take on the depth that we hear so much about for Florida State as Fred Scott draws a foul. So we know what's at stake for Florida State, number 11 in the country and a chance to be ACC regular season champs, number 1 seed. Dan, flip side of it for Boston College, I mean, this is a team that's trying to make a run here down the stretch. Second game for Scott Spinelli as the interim head coach, and they were terrific, especially offensively Saturday.
Well, this guy here with the basketball, that was his first ACC game. Only his 3rd game of the season against Notre Dame, and he was very productive. And when you have a big guy inside, that changes things, and Boston College finally does.
Florida State basketball after RaiQuan Evans blocked James Karnick underneath.
RaiQuan Evans, he's noted for his defensive skills, not necessarily his shot blocking. And that ball goes to Florida State because Karnick is out of bounds when he grabs the ball.
Scott Spinelli said to us yesterday they might extend some pressure on Florida State. They might do that in particular on Scotty Barnes when the stud freshman comes into the game for the Seminoles. Oh, nice scoop to the hoop by Justin Lindner, the 5th-year senior walk-on who wants to be a college basketball coach after his playing days.
Really good movement. Ball movement, player movement by the Seminoles here to start.
Fred Scott couldn't get it to go. It does stay with Boston College.
Ball not sticking around, and he just goes right by DeMar Langford. I think Langford thought that he wasn't going to continue. The bench is enjoying it.
Including Malik Osborne, you saw not dressed for Florida State tonight.
The important thing to remember, Mike, is these walk-ons are an important part of the team, and they are acknowledged as such by the other players on the team. The guys that play most of the minutes, they understand how important it is to have those fellas as the scout team. And those guys also, each one of those players takes a certain group, and they help the players, the guys who during timeout situations, the guys who are in the game, they come out and they talk to them and they help them see things out on the court that maybe when you're out there in the midst of the action, you don't see as well. So again, really smart guys, really smart basketball players, and their teammates obviously like them.
And pretty darn good players themselves. Had chances to play in other levels at other schools in a lot of cases. Starters in for Florida State, the standard starters, and there's MJ Walker on his senior night.
State, of course, in the man-to-man. Boston College will show a little zone and a little man-to-man.
And against the Florida State man, Scott Spinelli very concerned with turnovers as he gets a three from Jay Heath, sophomore guard from DC, who had 19 points against Notre Dame on Saturday, and BC gets it right back.
Scott Spinelli told us that he would like to see his team not shoot such a high percentage of three-point shots. On the season in ACC play, they scored 39% of their points from beyond the arc, only scored 28% of their points from beyond the arc against Notre Dame. But I think they're going to have to make some threes tonight because it's going to be hard to get inside the Florida State defense.
Yeah, they average 9 made threes per game, and they hit 9 against Notre Dame, but they took a whole lot less. Heath on the drive this time to pull BC even at 7. Nice pass by Scotty Barnes, then the extra pass for Anthony Polite for 3.
Nice job by Florida State to get up in the early offense.
Well, maybe Makai Ashton Langford has figured out something with his stroke these last couple of games.
I'm going to have to change the scouting report on a guy who has started to make them. He's now made 5 of his last 7.
Barnes kicked it, and FSU right now is lights out from deep itself. That's MJ Walker.
Florida State is an excellent three-point shooting team, the best three-point shooting team during Leonard Hamilton's tenure.
Makai Ashton Langford wanted a foul. Florida State comes back at you quickly. RaiQuan Gray gave it up. Polite missed it. Track shoes are on here at the Tucker Center, and Walker got a piece of that from DeMar Langford.
Scotty Barnes slowed him down, and Walker finished him off.
Ambitious pass from Scotty Barnes that time. BC moving it nicely. And the roll is there for Fred Scott.
Fred Scott, 6'8", 230, but he's very capable of making the three-point shot. Boston College dropped back into the zone. Ooh. MJ Walker is feeling it tonight.
We got 7 combined made threes so far in this one.
Teams are getting up and down.
Fun start these first 6 minutes. We're still looking for a stoppage. Makai Ashton Langford had the shot fake that time, and now Heath spun it out.
Boston College in a man-to-man now.
Karnick, who had Koprivica that time. Polite underneath. Will shoot a couple of free throws on the other side. Well, Florida State is up by 3, and they've knocked down 4 from beyond the arc so far. MJ Walker on his senior night, 3 of 3 from long range, but BC has knocked down a trio of triples themselves. Man, there is Steph Mitchell, Boston College senior from Shakopee, Minnesota. He's out today with a hamstring issue. Guy who's made 98 career starts and who's going to be the only player in program history to be top 10 in rebounds, steals, and blocks, you see.
He does just about everything. Now, he's not a big scorer, but he clearly defends, he rebounds, and his leadership skills are something that Boston College has relied upon too. So in a game like this, they will miss him badly.
Especially with all the size that we know Florida State always has, including here in this one. Despite not having Malik Osborne, who's been battling an ankle issue. He's getting some rest for that. That's why the redshirt junior is not in there for the Noles tonight. A couple of free throws for Anthony Polite. Number 11, Florida State. We told you off the top, trying to win ACC regular season titles in back-to-back years after they hadn't done it in the first 28 years in the conference, and trying to continue some home dominance here against Boston College tonight.
Well, you're right there nearing the all-time record. ACC for consecutive conference home games. 1.
Sitting on 24 in a row entering this one. Shot clock trickling down on Jay Heath. That is a tough shot, and he is a tough shot maker. Jay Heath. He's got 8 early ones for the Eagles. Evans on the baseline drive, got by Langford.
Well, he got by Langford, and then Engom sort of screened Vanderbaan off so that he couldn't get there.
Yeah, it's Justin Vanderbaan, 32 in the gray.
It's always a surprise when you get that close to the basket and there's nobody there.
Undeterred, so close. Shot clock winding down again on Boston College. This is C.J. Felder, and a second shot clock violation forced by Florida State defensively.
Well, you cannot make lazy passes against Florida State. The passes have to be short, crisp passes, because these guys from Florida State, they're aggressive, they're long, and they're going to get right up at you. If they get deflections, that disrupts your offense completely.
Three turnovers so far for Boston College, which went the entire first half on Saturday against Notre Dame without turning it over, and finished that game against the Fighting Irish, the 4-point win at Connie Forum, with just 5 turnovers in total. Sadar Calhoun drills a 3 after he dropped an Eagle defender.
That's what Calhoun does. He comes in and he can make threes.
And so 8 minutes into the game, Dan,
coming off.
Yeah, they keep coming at you. And Florida State has hit 5 threes. That's as many as they had in the entire game in the loss against North Carolina on Saturday.
Again, this is a good 3-point shooting team.
What a pass by RaiQuan Gray to find Ngum, who got the roll and has a chance at a 3-point play on the other side. It's been a 3-point barrage early on for Florida State, including Sadar Calhoun, who sent Jay Heath scrambling and knocked it down. Couple of really good ones coming your way Saturday, continuing what has been excellent week of college basketball. Some scores from today and yesterday in the ACC, Dan Bonner. What jumps out at you?
Well, huge win for Georgia Tech. And Syracuse obviously isn't finished yet. Team's still scrambling to get into the NCAA tournament. I found it interesting. Pittsburgh with a big win, even though they lost 2 of their top players who decided to transfer. And then I think down at the bottom is just as significant. Louisville and Virginia Tech canceled. We've already heard that Virginia Tech's weekend game against North Carolina State has been canceled. And we just hope that the Hokies and their COVID issues, supposedly it's contact tracing, just hope they can get those resolved before the ACC tournament.
And hopefully, though we're still a ways away from this too, the NCAA tournament as well, because teams have to produce 7 consecutive days of negative tests before the NCAA tournament. Off the C.J. Felder turnover. Felder got a piece of that on Nate Jack. Felder, the trailer, couldn't scoop it up.
Interesting couple of possessions for Felder.
And an offensive foul is going to go against Balsha Koprivica. Yeah, Felder got the full experience there.
No points, but he got the full experience. Had the turnover, and then he does a nice job recovering, not hanging his head after he turns the ball over, gets the blocked shot, and then he tries to score in traffic. And I'm telling you, it's hard to score in traffic against Florida State because they've got so many long-armed guys that you've got to get past and through and over.
And BC's not particularly well endowed with size. They do have James Karnick in there on a strong take. That's Makai Ashton Langford coming off perhaps his best collegiate game in that win over Notre Dame.
Well, he showed you some explosiveness right there.
That's what Scott Spinelli said to us yesterday. He's an elite level finisher. BC down by 7, and Fred Scott lost the handle. That's 5 Boston College turnovers.
A little too much dribbling by Fred Scott there.
Koprivica is going to the free throw line.
Boy, Koprivica is lucky he caught that ball. He'd have broken his nose if he missed it. That ball was whistled in there.
A Carson Montgomery fastball coming at Koprivica. Sophomore from Serbia, standing at 7'1". Hey, Friday's special time, 5:30 Eastern. It's our next Bald Men Not on Campus. Jay Billis, LaFonso Ellis, the coach, Seth Greenberg. They're going to preview a couple of games that'll be coming after that on Friday, only on ACC Network and the ESPN app. BC at Miami at 6 Eastern on Friday, and then Georgia Tech red hot off that overtime win last night at McCamish against Duke, squaring off with Wake Forest at 8 Eastern. A couple of misses from Koprivica, so it's an 8-point game midway through the first half here in Tallahassee. Nowhere to go for DeMar Langford. His brother, Makai, banks one in. Calhoun behind the back. Oh, that is nifty.
How about that? Nice job by Koprivica to be ready for that one.
Karnick, no. Got his miss, muscling it back up, and he'll go to the free throw line.
Well, we've talked about Makai Ashton Langford and how he played very well against Notre Dame. And he just, I mean, sometimes you get lucky, and he got lucky right there. That was a tough shot. He was a little off balance, but when things are going well for you, that's the kind of thing that happens.
He had 16 on Saturday, and he's got 10 early. Jay Heath has 8. So between those two guards, that's 18 of Boston College's 21 points so far in these first 11 minutes.
The only other guy who scored in the game is Scott. He made that 3. Harnick joins the party.
Senior and a transfer from Lehigh. Scotty Barnes just threw that up the top corner of the backboard. Scott out of control, offensive foul.
Now Scott is a very versatile player, but that's twice now that he's turned the ball over, dribbling it all the way up the court by himself and driving into traffic.
They were so pleased, though, with what they got from him, Dan, on Saturday. He had 18 points in 22 minutes off the bench. It was just his 4th game of the season, and he hadn't played since the end of November because of a knee injury that he had surgery on, and then out of the COVID pauses, of which BC dealt with a couple of those before getting back to work on Saturday.
And they really expected him to be a big help this year, and it hurt them to not have him.
I told you no Steph Mitchell, no Rich Kelly. He announced last week that he's got plantar fasciitis that's going to keep him out the rest of the season, and that he'll enter the transfer portal after the year. Winston Tabbs has transferred, and actually tonight he announced he's headed to East Carolina. And it's another shot clock violation, the 3rd one already on Scott Spinelli's Eagles. Well, Boston College getting a taste of it. Florida State needs a couple of wins this week if it wants to be ACC regular season champs. They're up by 8 right now with 8 to go in the first half. Dan Bonner, I know you're very impressed by the shot quality that Florida State's getting offensively.
They're shooting the ball very well. You don't shoot 69% from the field unless you're getting good shot opportunities. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that their big guys are running the court and getting opportunities inside. Scotty Barnes has been finding some people, but the people are driving the ball to the basket with great success. Boston College, no matter what defense they're playing, they've got to do a better job cutting down on that Florida State dribble penetration.
We saw MJ Walker with 3 threes early on, but since then, like you said, it's been a lot of Florida State on the interior, as it is again there, but very nice hands from C.J. Felder. Polite got it back from Langford.
Well, Langford was falling out of bounds, and in that situation, he's worried about turning it over, but it's much better to be called for a turnover because you're out of bounds than to hand it to the other team right underneath the basket.
And then Jay Heath was trying to knife through the entire defense, and he turned it over.
Well, Langford's got the ball here. His own guy, Williams, knocks him down, and he's just trying to get rid of the ball. That's a case where you just hang on to it. You get the turnover, but they don't get the, you don't create the turnover and the basket.
Polite is fouled by Karnick. It's why you hear coaches say all the time, you know, don't save it right underneath your own hoop like that.
What we saw right there is another example. Anthony Polite took the ball on the perimeter and drove it all the way to the basket, and the first resistance he got was from the center coming over and trying to help. Karnick picks up the foul.
And so, Dan, for you, is it just at the point of attack defensively for Boston College, just those one-on-one battles? You got to do a better job staying in front on the perimeter?
Well, you can't play defense if you can't stay in front of your man. And, of course, that's much easier said than done against this Florida State team. We've got guys who can really attack the basket. This is a complete basketball team.
It really is. Number 11 in the country. Joey Brackets has them as a 4 seed right now. They had been a 3 seed. Still a lot to get sorted out before Selection Sunday, of course. And right now, just ahead of Virginia in the ACC standings.
We've got 10 on the shot clock, and they haven't gotten inside the three-point arc yet.
They don't touch the paint. And it's the fourth turnover the last 2.5 minutes. Led to a Walker miss from 3. Langford to the cup. And the foul goes against Florida State. Blocking foul call.
Ngom is trying to take the charge, but I'm telling you what, when you're 7'2", maybe you ought to be trying to block the shot. Ngom, I think he's got his heel on that restricted area arc. And in transition, he automatically becomes a secondary defender, but even had he been outside the arc, I don't think he got himself in position. If you're Boston College, you cannot afford to lose any opportunities. They're now 1 for 3 from the free throw line.
After they shot it so well down the stretch, and a lot of that came from this guy in particular, closing out the win over Notre Dame, DeMar Langford. He was 9 of 11 in total at the free throw line in that game. He admitted afterward he was a little nervous with all those late free throws in the final minute, but he said not too bad. And Scott Spinelli said to us yesterday he was kind of excited that DeMar was the guy going to the line as Gray scores it and got fouled.
Again, Kamari Williams, he got caught on the side of RaiQuan Gray. And Kamari Williams at 180 pounds trying to go up against RaiQuan Gray at 260 pounds. Unless you stay in front of him, you've got no chance.
So Gray stamps the three-point play, and the lead is as large as it has been for Florida State at 14 with over 6 to go here in the first half.
Florida State doing a great job switching most of the screens.
RaiQuan Gray, the slam off the steal. One run and has blown this thing open here on Boston College.
And they've done it on the defensive end. They've got 15 points as a result of turnovers. They've forced 10 turnovers. And their defense in the half court has been very good at keeping Boston College out of the lane.
Fred Scott got an offensive rebound off the C.J. Felder miss. Felder gave it up for Scott. Can't knock it down. A second offensive rebound this trip. Heath. And Polite finally secures it for the Noles. Barnes pulls up and knocks it down.
And one of the only knocks against Scotty Barnes' game is that he doesn't shoot the three very well, but looked pretty good on that one.
It had been a while since he had knocked down a three for Florida State. We saw the number 5 recruit in our ESPN 100 coming into the year.
He does such a good job distributing the ball to his teammates.
So Florida State turned it over that time. Heath out of the corner, gets it to go.
That's the way you get a really good three-point look lots of times, in transition after a turnover.
Wyatt Wilkes. Oh, he's got to locate him, and he gets the roll.
Comes into the game in ACC play, shooting 48% from beyond the arc. So you're right, Mike, you got to find him.
He's the 10th different Seminole who has scored in the first 16 minutes of this ball game. Fred Scott back the other way. He draws a foul on the drive. Florida State looking the part right now of the number 11 team in the country, and Joe Lunardi currently has them as a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament projection right now. You see where their net is at number 14. Dan, I'm curious what you think about Florida State's chances once we get into the NCAA tournament, and maybe the type of team that you'd like to see them against.
Well, I think Florida State is going to be a problem for any team simply because they have such versatility. They have athleticism. They have guys who are really long. They can get after you on defense. They can score inside. You know, RaiQuan Gray can get the ball inside, driving the ball or playing in the low post and score just about against anybody. And they have excellent three-point shooters. So I think this can be a very, very dangerous team. But, Mike, remember one thing. This NCAA tournament is a crapshoot. You never know what's going to happen in the tournament. You know, if you're Florida State and you run up against a team that's going to make 16 threes, then that's a problem. But this is, I think, a Florida State team that could advance very deeply into the NCAA tournament just because of their size, their versatility, their depth.
Calhoun got it back, and he tried to throw it down on top of Fred Scott's head. He will go to the free throw line.
Well, this gives you an idea about how active Florida State can be. Wilkes gets the rebound inside, and Calhoun, he could stand out on the perimeter, but he doesn't. He goes to the basket, finds the open area, and even though he lost the ball on the way up, that was a great job by Calhoun to get to the basket.
He drew the second foul on Fred Scott. And Sadar Calhoun, junior from Tappahannock, Virginia, he is just dripping with athleticism.
He's a very good three-point shooter, but again, he's an aggressive player, and he just showed it right there. Lots of times guards, they stand outside and watch the big guys rebound. But because he went to the goal, he gave Wilkes an outlet, and as a result, he got himself a free throw.
Nice shot fake and drive by Karnick, and then Makai Ashton Langford picks him up on the follow, and Makai's got a dozen. Nate Jack misses. Wilkes. Boy, he loves that corner. Look, Makai Ashton Langford, and a foul on Florida State.
That's a nice job by Langford. He recognized that he had Koprivica guarding him and he could beat him, but it was very interesting. The defense collapsed and they very nearly lost the ball.
$11 Boston College turnovers here in the first half after it just had 5 turnovers in the entirety of the game against Notre Dame Saturday.
A little bit different defensive intensity there.
Yes. Yeah, I would say so. DeMar Langford attacking and finishing. Strong take by the freshman from Worcester, Mass. Foul is on the floor against Boston College, the 1-and-1 coming.
That's the third foul on Makai Ashton Langford. And this is DeMar Langford taking the ball to the basket at 6'5", 195 pounds. He's got good size. He can attack the basket very successfully. He's very strong. He's got a pretty good pull-up jumper, but he elected to just try to jump over everybody that time. He's able to get it to go in the goal.
And his brother, we said, had to go out with the 3 fouls. He wasn't too pleased with the call, and
no.
Be curious, just on first look, and it seemed like he might have had a case. Coming up on the State Farm halftime report, we're going to check in with Mark Packer and Wes Durham, and they're going to be talking about something that I know is on our minds, Dan. ACC Player of the Year frontrunners. I mean, I could make a case legitimately for 10 or 11 guys in the ACC.
Well, it's been an interesting year.
These are the guys that they're going to be talking
Wes
about.
And Mark, yeah, that they think. And, you know, Justin Champagnie down there, he's, you know, when you lead the conference in scoring and rebounding and average a double-double, that's usually that results in being named player of the year. Not all the time, but that's a pretty good benchmark.
As you know better than most, that's been the way it's gone in the history of this great conference for the most part.
There have been 11 times where somebody has led the conference in scoring and rebounding, averaging a double-double, and on 7 of those occasions, that person was named the ACC Player of the Year. The last person who did it and who was not named ACC Player of the Year was Rod Griffin from Wake Forest back in 1978, when the Player of the Year was Phil Ford.
Hey, coming up Saturday, we'll have the ACC Women's Basketball Tournament semifinals right here on ACCN and the ESPN app. First game starts at noon Eastern. Then Sunday, it's the championship game over on ESPN2. BC Women's Basketball, big victory today over Pitt. That was the only game today in Greensboro. And Cam Swartz went for 33 points. And Boston College will face the 5-seed Syracuse tomorrow. Dan, back to what you were saying, though. I mean, so a guy who averages a double-double and who leads the conference in points and rebounding. I mean, that's not every time, but a lot of times it's been a ticket for Player of the Year in the conference.
Right, but keep in mind that right at the moment, Matthew Hurt is leading in scoring average by about half a point a game. So Champagnie has, for most of the year, led the conference in scoring and rebounding, averaging a double-double. Matthew Hurt has had some big games recently, so we still have some basketball to be played. But those 4 guys that we showed you are very good candidates. But I agree with you, Mike. I think there are others out there.
Well, and the name that I'm hearing a ton of, Dan, in the last 48 hours is Moses Wright, because of how well he's been playing recently for Georgia Tech, and we saw that firsthand last night in the overtime win against Duke.
Well, he certainly is on a tear. But this guy here taking the ball out of bounds for Florida State, RaiQuan Gray, he doesn't have the kind of scoring average that these other guys do, but RaiQuan, you're not going to have that kind of a scoring average on Florida State's team, and RaiQuan Gray has been a huge factor in the success of what right at the moment is the best team in the league. So
MJ Walker's another guy who might be in the mix. Yeah, he's got his 4th 3 of the half. He's got a team-high 12 points, and the senior from Riverdale, Georgia, averages 13 a game.
Don't often see 53 points scored in a half of basketball. Whew.
Everything's been difficult for Boston College offensively, and it's going the way of Florida State with 21 ticks left. Hey, we told you what's coming up on Saturday in the ACC. It includes Duke and North Carolina matching up at 6 p.m. Eastern. And here on ACCN, we're throwing another all-ACC watch party. How about this crew? Jordan Cornett's the point guard of the group, with Carlos Boozer for the Duke side and Vince Carter for Carolina right here on ACCN and the ESPN app. Carlos Boozer in his 3 years at Duke, 6-1 against North Carolina. Vince Carter in his 3 years at UNC, 5-2 against the Blue Devils. So I'm sure both guys will be confident with the trash talking flowing from both of them.
And given the fact that North Carolina is sort of in a precarious position, they dropped that game to Syracuse, and Duke, of course, just lost that game to Georgia Tech. that is just beyond the rivalry. That is an unbelievably important game for each of those two teams in terms of their ability to potentially gain an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. So it's more than just a rivalry. It's a very important game.
Duke in the first 4 out right now, according to Joe Lunardi. So they say it's going to stay instead with Boston College, and that a timeout was granted on the floor. And so 5 seconds separating game and shot clocks. Kamari Williams wide right, and Gom the rebound, and then tipped away by Scott to get it back, and a foul against Florida State. So the 1-and-1 coming.
And Gom a little overly excited out there. He knocked the ball away.
Got hit with the second foul. 1-and-1 for Fred Scott, 6 of 11 at the line in limited work this year. And he pings it off the back iron. And that does it for the first half from the Tucker Center. 53 points for Florida State, the number 11 team in the country, against Boston College coming off the big win.
You got as many as 5 to consider, but really 4 have kind of bubbled to the top here. Some have been there all year. Some are.
Center getting set for the second half between Boston College and number 11 Florida State. Dan Bonner, Mike Monaco, our entire ACC network crew with you for this one. Closing down what's been a busy day here on ACCN, a triple header that started with a Syracuse win over Clemson, followed by an NC State win over Notre Dame. And now this Boston College team trails headed into the second half in a building that is very tough to beat Florida State in. But Dan Bonner, on this Boston College side, what would you like to see from them out of the gates here?
I think Boston College needs to be able to get the ball into the lane, and they really struggled to do that in the first half. And the other thing they need to do is to set their defense, and it's hard to set your defense, number one, when you're not scoring regularly, and number two, when you're turning the ball over. So they have to be a little bit more efficient on offense so they can be able to set their defense, and I think they have to attack on offense.
Well, they set the defense and they forced the turnover right away. And Mekhi Ashton Langford, we showed you, he controlled it there. Remember, he's playing with 3 fouls that he picked up in the first half.
I think at this stage of the game, if you're Mekhi Ashton Langford, you can't really worry about those fouls. You've got to be aggressive offensively. You don't want to be reaching defensively, but one of his best skills is attacking the basket, and he needs to attack.
Perhaps he settled there for a shot from the outside and missed it, though he has knocked down a couple of threes in this one. RaiQuan Gray got the roll. Just hung there on the rim.
Boy, he is so good getting into the lane and then just jumping up in the air with that mid-range opportunity.
Off the Jay Heath miss. Yeah, he's really interesting, and he's been playing so well coming down the stretch here.
Well, he lost that one. He dribbled it into trouble, and that's something you never want to do. But Boston College can't take advantage of it. And you have to be quick, but as John Wooden used to say, be quick, but don't hurry. And Boston College, they're in a hurry, and you can understand why. Florida State, with the way they play defense and the way they keep after you, they force you to hurry.
And with the turnovers, Scott Spinelli, the interim head coach, he was so worried about Florida State's ability to turn them into points. Florida State got the extra possession on the turnover, and it was MJ Walker who just cashed in. And boy, what a welcome sight for Seminoles fans. This looks like the MJ Walker that we saw most recently when he was knocking down threes in that win over Virginia a couple of weeks ago.
The ball's got to move if you're Boston College.
Moved at that time to find Jay Heath for 3.
Heath is putting together a pretty good game.
His 4th 3 of the 8 BC makes from beyond the line. Polite got by with a little hesitation, snuck by Langford.
And Mike, unfortunately, Scott Spinelli, he's got to be scratching his head over there. How many times have we seen that tonight? Florida State just able to get by the perimeter defense and get an easy one.
Whereas nothing has come easy for Boston College offensively against the Seminole D. RaiQuan Gray wide open, and that is 10 Florida State triples.
And RaiQuan Gray, we've seen him get a steal and drive the ball to the basket in transition. We've seen him drive the ball to the basket in the half court. We've seen him take the ball inside and rise up and shoot a mid-range jumper. Now we see him knock down a three. He truly is one of the most versatile players in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
He's coming off a game in which he had a career-high 6 turnovers against North Carolina. Sorry, Dan, to cut you off. People aren't what?
People aren't talking about this guy as a potential player of the year candidate because, again, his scoring and rebounding numbers aren't as high as some of the other candidates, but that's because he plays for a team that plays a lot of guys.
He does turn it over. Yeah, he doesn't embolden his case there for player of the year, but Florida State gets a strip, and here is Gray leading the run out. Extra pass. Nate Jack into the mid-range. Boston College needs the timeout with the first few minutes of the second half, leading 65-38 here in Tallahassee. Well, we've been talking a little bit about looking ahead toward March and the NCAA tournament and bracketology, and the bubble really impacts a few teams, Dan, in the ACC. And you see right now Duke slotted into that first 4 out according to Joe Lunardi.
Well, and you know, Joe of course doesn't pick the tournament. It may seem like that, but Joe doesn't pick the teams for the tournament, but he's got a pretty good nose for where people are slotted at any particular moment. And Duke, what that means is that they're still in position. They've got a huge game against North Carolina, and then they obviously have some opportunities in the ACC tournament. So Duke, after everybody giving them up for dead earlier in the season, they're still in it.
And Duke, Dan, is going to be one of the teams that, the way things stand right now, that is slotted to hit 18 ACC games, and only one team in the ACC will get more than that. Miami is set to reach 19 conference games, and then Duke and a few others at 18.
And of course, that's going to be an interesting issue in terms of determining the conference standings. The teams will have played varying numbers of games, and so the conference standings will have to be determined by winning percentage. You know, as an example, we were talking about, well, Virginia Tech, they've had both of their games canceled for this week, so they're going to end the conference season having played 13 games. And as you say, Miami, if they play the games that they're still scheduled to play, they will have played 19 games. Well, it just goes from bad to worse for BC. Jay Heath hit that three-pointer a couple of possessions ago.
Felder was out of bounds. We take another timeout, and then it's back to Tallahassee. We're in the middle of a game, but this is what the ACC tournament bracket would look like. And Dan, I know we can't help but look right in the middle at Syracuse-Duke, which right now would be the 8-9 matchup and would have bubble implications as well.
Well, we just showed you that Duke, Joe Lunardi has them in the first 4 out, and Syracuse, I believe he has in the next 4 out. And so that could be a huge game, particularly if Duke loses to North Carolina.
So that's where it stands with, after this game right now, 6 conference games remaining on the schedule between Friday and Saturday. Coming out of the timeout, and Nate Jack knocked down a 3 and then tripped over C.J. Felder. And yeah, there have been a lot of them here for the Seminoles. That's 11 now from long range.
Well, many more threes than trips because they're knocking them down.
C.J. Felder with his first made field goal in his first game in 2.5 weeks. Didn't play Saturday because of COVID protocols.
Boston College trying to get out and run, but Florida State doing a great job getting back on defense.
Forced Heath into a miss, and Jack does the same. You know, we were talking before the break too, Dan, in light of just showing that bracket, that it is such a wide range of games that teams are going to end up playing in ACC action. Talked about Virginia Tech being scheduled to just only play 13. The same now the case for Louisville, because they did not play against the Hokies today, and BC with today and with Friday's game against Miami, they're just going to hit 13 as well.
And again, Miami, you mentioned they're going to get, if they play their games, if they don't have any cancellations, they're going to play 19. And the only reason they're not going to play 20 is because of that incident with North Carolina, where they were a little reluctant to play because the video of North Carolina guys partying after their big win against Duke. But Miami, of course, they're a team that they haven't been bothered by the COVID problems, but they have been devastated by injuries. You know, the poor Hurricanes, they and Notre Dame are the only teams that haven't had a COVID pause, and Miami could have used a couple.
Yeah, just trying to get healthy. And BC knows all about that too. They've had a couple of COVID pauses, but they've dealt with their share of injuries this year as they trail by 23, 6 minutes into the second half. We told you no Winston Tabbs, who on the same day that Jim Christian got fired, they announced that Winston Tabbs would miss the remainder of the season due to a violation of the university's protocols of COVID. And then he entered the transfer portal soon thereafter. And then last Thursday, Rich Kelly going to miss the end of the year with a foot issue, and then he's going to transfer. Hey, Friday, 5:30 Eastern special time. It's our next Bald Men Not on Campus on ACCN and the ESPN app. So it's been a tricky situation for Scott Spinelli, who's been here all 7 years with Jim Christian, and as we said, his second game as the interim head coach for the longtime assistant in the collegiate ranks. Offensive foul on Scotty Barnes.
Scotty Barnes has only attempted 2 field goals tonight. That's his 3rd foul, but he's got 6 assists in the game. So this hasn't been a vintage Scotty Barnes game, and that's a little scary. If Florida State's going to score 68 points when Scotty Barnes isn't going to be at the top of his game.
Right, on a night where he's got those 4 turnovers.
He's got 6 assists, but you're right, 4 turnovers.
Felder knifing and following. Nicely done by C.J. Felder.
Well, Felder's big and strong and aggressive, and he just hadn't been able to get the ball close to the basket. That is a great play by Kamari Williams. He steals the ball, throws it behind his back, somehow hits Nate Jack with it.
Kind of like the move Jordan Usher pulled last night for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, that's good hustle. And I think, you know, Boston College, they've had a tough year, but I haven't seen any games that they've played where they've quit. Their effort has been there.
Oh, there's some hustle from DeMar Langford backtracking, yeah.
And it's a lot of guys that just stood and watched.
Up and down action here the last few possessions. BC on a little 6-0 spurt the last 2.5 minutes. Polite driving baseline on Heath, got the foul and got the bucket.
And again, the issue for Boston College on that possession started before Polite got underneath the basket. He went by Heath out on the perimeter. Heath has to move his feet and prevent Polite from getting that position inside where he can make the basket and draw the foul. He just goes right around him. Polite uses his body to screen Heath away once he gets his head and shoulders past. And then Heath goes for the fake and commits the foul. You have to respect the ability of these Seminoles, particularly Polite, to shoot the three, but somehow you have to get out and guard the three without giving up that drive to the basket. And again, that's much easier said than done. That's been one of Boston College's biggest problems tonight.
And Polite doing a nice job attacking the closeout. Wow. Five blocked shots for Florida State. That time RaiQuan Evans.
That's the second one Evans has gotten tonight. You want to know how to attack a three-point shooter, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that's not chopping the feet in a closeout with high hands the way that they teach it. That is going for the block on the walk-on of Boston College, Andrew Kenny, the sophomore from Seattle. And Williams stepped out of bounds before he tried to throw it off with the same trick that he used before.
Well, that's always very difficult when you catch the ball with your back to the court in the corner when you're double teamed. You're stuck right there. He made a good effort to try to get out, but 17 turnovers now for Boston College.
And if you're BC, you got to feel like, Dan, that it's just coming from everywhere, from Florida State offensively, but then when you have it offensively, I mean, Florida State's got limbs everywhere. There have been shot clock violations. There have been Boston College players trying to save it in both corners in the last couple of minutes. Jay Heath. Well, he's been knocking them down. That is 6 triples now for Jay Heath, and he's got 20 points.
And for his career, he now has 102 three-point field goals made. So passes a milestone here tonight.
He's got a chance for another. Make it 7 for Jay Heath.
103.
And he's done all that in just 2 years in Chestnut Hill. He had never had more than 5 triples in a game in the first couple of years, and now has 7 with still 11 minutes left. Hey, it's been Florida State in this one. They're up by 20 with 11 minutes to go, but how about Jay Heath? The Eagles not giving in, and this guy not letting up. 20.
You see, that's a career high in terms of three-pointers made, but Boston College, they were down by 27, and Jay Heath himself is on a 6-0 run here. Has made a couple of baskets.
I think a lot of folks around the ACC, Dan, felt good for Boston College, for the players and for the kids on the team and what they've gone through this year, for getting that win Saturday. And we told you Jay Heath was on Packer and Durham yesterday, and Jay said that the locker room celebration at Connie Forum after the win was quite something, because those guys had been dying to play. They had gone through a couple of COVID pauses. They had seen their head coach get fired less than 2 weeks before that, and they came out and they got their second ACC win of the year.
One of the things that we've seen throughout the country with these COVID pauses and the COVID situation in general is these players want to play. And I think for the most part, the kids have done a nice job hanging in there through some very difficult circumstances.
We sit here on March 3rd, winding things down. Just a few days left in the ACC regular season before things get started on Tuesday in Greensboro. RaiQuan Gray, man, he can just back you down, and he's so good in the mid-range, up to 16 points on 7 of 7 shooting from the floor.
He's made all 7 of his field goal attempts, including 1 3. He's made his 1 free throw attempt. He's got a couple of assists.
Very versatile guy. 50 Shades of Gray from RaiQuan. Given away back to Boston College.
And again, RaiQuan Gray takes that 260-pound frame and just backs in against the smaller defender. That's Makai Ashton Langford. Giving up about 55 pounds, and that's 55 pounds of muscle that he's given up. RaiQuan Gray worked really hard over the offseason to remake his body. Didn't lose any weight, but just redistributed. That's all muscle. And he is very, very light on his feet.
It's going to be hard then for some people to keep him off of the all ACC first team selection. Fourth shot clock violation on BC.
First one of the second half, but you're right, that makes 4 for the game. And you just saw Malik Osborne. You know, you talk about Florida State's size and depth. Well, Malik Osborne, he hadn't played today. And that's a 6'9", 225 pounds.
Scotty Barnes with a slam.
That's a great job by MJ Walker, drawing the defense in, and as he's flying out of bounds, he makes the pass back to Scotty Barnes, and another easy opportunity for the Seminoles.
And back to your point, Dan, on Malik Osborne. We did the game last week when Florida State played at Miami, when Malik Osborne rolled his ankle. His left ankle didn't return in that game. Did play 20 minutes off the bench against Carolina on Saturday and wasn't all that productive. So presumably getting him some rest before coming down the stretch with the regular season finale on Saturday in South Bend against Notre Dame.
Well, I think Florida State has an awful lot left to play for in this basketball season, not only in the ACC tournament, but in the NCAA tournament. We'd like to be completely healthy.
Walker doesn't get the roll. Koprivica gets the stuff.
You know, everybody can defend, everybody can run. Barnes might have something to say to MJ Walker. That was another assist. But Koprivica, what a great job by Koprivica to not touch the ball when it was sitting on the rim, but to bounce right back up and get it and then go for the dunk.
Fred Scott on the baseline drive.
Where Scott was by Koprivica, but Koprivica did a really nice job just getting in the way without fouling.
Stays with Florida State. Last touch by BC.
We talked about the versatility of this Florida State team. Koprivica is a guy who can catch the ball and score effectively inside. And so you say, well, Florida State, they don't. What if they have to go up against one of these teams with these great big guys? And there are a lot of them who are going to be in the NCAA tournament. Well, Koprivica gives them a chance in there, particularly along with Malik Osborne.
Koprivica drew a foul on Fred Scott that time at the post. And with 7:47 to go in the second half, Phyllis Duke Carolina always delivers. And yeah, the dance moves of Roy Williams deliver as well. He was breaking it down there, and certainly he's coming off a big one on Saturday. Career win number 900, fastest coach to get to that benchmark when his team took down this Florida State squad. And that's coming up Saturday, Duke Carolina.
Well, as we said, right at the moment, our Joe Lunardi has North Carolina comfortably in the field, but remember, North Carolina has now lost 2 of their last 3 games, and they can't afford a loss to Duke, and then if they lose one early in the ACC tournament, so they might not be so comfortable. So Not only because Roy Williams can deliver dance moves, but his team needs to deliver a victory in a big game against Duke. Of course, it's always a big game against Duke, but a lot on the line here for both of those teams in terms of even getting into the NCAA tournament. A lot of times that game is about playing who's going to get a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament, but not this year.
That's one of the few games in the ACC on Saturday. Florida State will be in action on ESPN2 at noon at Notre Dame, coming off a loss today against NC State.
Mike,
Florida State up by 26 here with 7 to go, Dan.
Talking about Florida State's depth. Well, how's this for depth for you? They've had 11 guys score in this game. They've had 10 different guys get a rebound in the game. They've got 7 different guys who had an assist in the game. They've had 7 different guys who blocked the shot.
That is coming at you in waves, like we know Florida State does. Good hands by Anthony Polite, took it away from Makai Ashton Langford. Walker hoists and hits. MJ Walker now 6 of 8 from beyond the arc, and he's matched a career high with those half-dozen triples. And the ball squirted underneath there to the freshman big man Justin Vanderbond from Northbridge, Massachusetts. He's got his first collegiate points. Walker wanted a 7-3, matching what Jay Heath has done.
He's trying to
Heath
create
a
some
step back.
space.
Oh, come on now, Jay Heath. He's got 8 threes.
And that's against the 7-footer. Heath did a great job driving Koprivica just far enough back that the big guy couldn't get back to bother the shot.
I mean, he looks so confident when he's taking those step back threes. We saw it Saturday as well against Notre Dame.
A step back 3 is one thing, but a step back 3 over a 7'1" guy is an entirely different proposition.
Man, look at the length of Barnes just getting his own miss there. Makai Ashton Langford with a head of steam, and he gets fouled. Yeah, this is what you're talking about, Dan. Heath against 7'1" Balsha Koprivica.
Well, he's trying to make sure. Now he backs him up just far enough, and that's...
It's not 11,500 packed inside the Tucker Center, but a few thousand here. You saw MJ Walker with family in attendance as well for his senior night. From Riverdale, Georgia. Guy who came in a 5-star recruit and an embrace with the coaching staff.
And obviously a very emotional night for MJ Walker, for his family, but again, this is the last time MJ Walker will play here. But Florida State has a lot of basketball left to play.
I was talking with MJ earlier this year, and he was remarking that, man, time flies. Next thing you know, you're a senior here. Jay Heath does not get the roll on what would have been his 9th made 3.
His problem was he hit the rim. Most of the time he's hit nothing but the bottom of the net.
Anthony Polite, no. Let's see what Jay Heath can do these final 4 minutes. We might be in store for something even more special here. He took the bump, and he will go to the free throw line.
Well, he hadn't made a free throw tonight. That's about the only thing he hasn't done. He's 0 for 2 from the line. Already with a career high. Boston College had not fared very well from the free throw line tonight.
Hey, Saturday we'll have the ACC women's basketball tournament semifinals right here on ACCN and on the ESPN app. And then the championship game is Sunday on ESPN2. Friday we're going to have the top 4 seeds in action, and that of course includes a couple of teams that are ranked 5th in the country. NC State number 3, Louisville number 5, Florida State as well. They've had a wonderful season among that top 4 seeds on the women's side. RaiQuan Evans into the mid-range, no. Rebound, Kamari Williams.
Boy, Polite almost had that one. They just always got their hands moving, looking to steal the ball.
It's probably their best on-ball defender, and he was matched up with the guy who's hit 8 triples. And a tabletop and a foul. We've been pouring down the threes here in this one. 12 for Boston College, 12 for Florida State. So 24 combined, and that's a great way to remind you that you can download the ACC 3-point challenge app presented by New York Life, and it helps benefit the local Boys and Girls Club. And for the ACC tournament, you can score points for your school, and then after the tournament, the local Boys and Girls Club will get a donation from New York Life based on their affiliated ACC team's final ranking.
It is the 12th by Ballard, just scored that one. That's the 12th Seminole to score in this game.
Freshman big man stuffed at home. It's a 26-point game coming down the stretch. Florida State trying to continue some home dominance. Coming into today, they have won 24 consecutive ACC home games. And Dan, you mentioned this earlier. For Leonard Hamilton, that's the second longest streak in ACC history. Only Duke has had a streak of more ACC home wins in a row. They did that from '97 to 2000 when they got 26 in a row. Green team is coming back in the turquoise uniforms for Florida State here on Senior Day. If you weren't with us at the top, they started this ball game. The weatherman, Harrison Prieto, back in along with his cohorts. They love the Vipers here at the Tuck.
Well, and again, it's important to note that these guys, they're all fifth-year guys. They've been with the program that long. They understand what Florida State's trying to do. They actually help with the transition for some of the new guys coming in, explaining to them and helping them with how Florida State does things. So this group of guys is going to be fairly hard to replace.
It's so rare to have 4 different walk-ons who were seniors last year come back for that 5th-year senior season. And Florida State's got an armada of guys when you look at their sideline or their bench at any point during a game or in warm-ups. It can be intimidating. Oh, nice pass by Sam Holtz, BC senior walk-on, to his classmate and roommate Will Jackowitz.
Well, you know, for example, one of their guys, Linder, he's paired with the point guards, Scotty Barnes, RaiQuan Evans, and point forward RaiQuan Gray. And what that means is when those guys are playing in the game, his job is to watch, and when they come to the sideline after the coaches tell him what to do, he offers them some suggestions. And most of the time it's not a matter of offering suggestions. They go and they ask for those suggestions. That's the kind of atmosphere that they have here at Florida State.
There's the guy you mentioned, Justin Lindner, out of Memphis with 2 more. He had 2 in the first half out of the gates as well. And I think it just speaks to the culture, Dan, around this Florida State program and what Leonard Hamilton and CY and Stan Jones have built. And remember, we saw earlier this week, just on Monday, Leonard Hamilton, it got announced that he's got a contract extension through the 2024-2025 season. Well deserved for him.
Well, he does such a nice job. And you talk about the culture. Well, you don't build the culture in one day or one season. And one of the reasons is the type of players that they recruit. You know, we've talked about the fact that they like to play a lot of guys, and sometimes players don't want to sit on the bench. They don't want to wait their turn. You know, they want to play 30, 35 minutes a game. But at Florida State, they recruit the kind of guy who's willing to participate as a member of a team. You know, not that guys who play 35 minutes aren't willing to participate as a member of the team, but it's not the point I'm making. It's just rare that people are willing to sacrifice minutes for team success. And they've got a bunch of them who are willing to do that. And that's a credit to the coaches, but it's also a credit to the young men.
Oh, nice pass to the baseline and two at the rim. Will Miles dropped it in. Now 13 seconds separating game and shot clocks. Next up for BC, they are at Miami on Friday. You can watch that game right here on ACCN. They'll be in action in the ACC tournament on Tuesday, first day of action. They'll be playing. We told you Florida State, meanwhile, at Notre Dame on Saturday. They would play on Thursday in Greensboro.
Really impressive performance by Florida State. They now have 13 guys who have scored in the game.
Look at the bench just going wild. Prieto knocked down the three. Boy, that's going to be a sweet taste in the mouth of the Florida State seniors, leaving the Tucker Center for the final time.
Well, even with that mask on, you can see that Leonard Hamilton's smiling.